Welcome to No Shame, episode 94. I have a man here that I am proud to call my friend. We were just talking before we went on earlier, the idea of the family that surrounds the outside of the cage when you're fighting or when you're coming up, and it's kind of like a family. So we have world-renowned cutman Joe Clifford with us.
Thanks a million, Paddy.
Absolute pleasure to have you on, Joe. And as I was just saying there before I start going, me and Joe have probably 2-minute conversations, and they're probably the most lit and interesting conversations.
Do you remember the one we had about house coats and house shoes?
Yes, I did. In Jordan, a man Jordan.
Yeah.
2 Dublin lads and a man Jordan. What were we at?
Oh, well, you have to take the toiletries home, that's a fact. And so me and Paddy were just comparing the house coats that they gave in the hotel. Beautiful. They were probably the fanciest.
Oh, yeah. What a hotel.
Yeah, what for sure.
And that was it. I have to say, Cage Warriors don't hold back on the expenses.
They were the good days in Cage Warriors.
They were really good, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, for us, I mean, I'm sure there's loads of good days with Cage Warriors now, but when we were there, it was like...
but they were the golden days.
For Irish MMA.
It was booming at that time.
Yeah, because yourself had just come into it. There was the Chris Fields, and then who else was there? Ash Daly, Carl Pendert, Connor. Who else was in? There was a bunch.
Philip Mulpeer as well. I think it's fine.
Mulpeer was on it, yeah. The Honey Badger, and then even your own Ryan. Sorry, say it for me, Ryan Ruddy.
Owen Ruddy.
Exactly. That's what I said. Ryan Ruddy's the.
He fought Wilson Reyes.
Yeah.
Wilson Reyes.
He's not an author, by the way. He's just.
That's what Ruddy did.
Yeah, exactly. One of them.
So how do you end up? Like, you have a very interesting life. There's no doubt
Thanks
about
very
that,
much,
Joe.
Paddy.
Like, you really do, man. Like, some of the stuff you do and your outlook on life as well is kind of like someone I don't really know. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be able to compare somebody to you, especially say a man in your age as well. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be able to say he's like, you know what I mean? Like, you want to see Joe. Joe is cool. Joe is in great shape, lives a good life, a nice clean life, chases positivity. You know what I mean? You radiate that off you.
Right now, appreciate that. Well, that was the nicest thing you've ever said to me. So just give me a second until I get up. There you go.
So how did you end up getting on this? Like, growing up in Dublin. So say a time of Dublin when you were growing up would have been a little bit different to where Dublin is now. Yeah,
I was born in the 60s, and in the 70s, Dublin was a very different place. And I'd always make reference to the amount of litter you'd see, on O'Connell Street and various other. And it's only until you get into your teen years and the first away trip you've ever did, with your parents. I think it was 15 when we went to Spain, that you noticed things were a little bit cleaner than they were back home, and things looked older and stuff like that. But, Ireland, I mean, the streets of Dublin weren't exactly eye candy at that time, but the people of Dublin, I've always, I don't know, I just loved them.
Me too.
And I love the characters in Dublin, and I've always loved the fact that you could stand at a bus stop with a total stranger and start a conversation, being kinks laughing after 5 or 10 minutes, and that's Dublin to me. Or else somebody says something about somebody. I remember walking into it was a funeral, and they were having it in a bar. They were having to have a few drinks in the bar just to, see him off, kind of thing. And we walked in, and they said to Timmy, a fellow was with, they said to him, Timmy, so Mrs. Fairmile died in her sleep last night. And Timmy goes, she doesn't even know she's dead yet. He was with the lads in the room, like, and it's edgy, it's touchy, but it's funny, you know what I mean?
That's what. So even when you look at folklore and you look at like Irish stories and stuff like that, it's like going up. Then he died.
Yeah.
It always kind of ends like that. There's something about Irish humour or something that's it has to end grim or dark. Yeah, it has to end grim or dark or something.
It's blunt and ends. But it changed a lot then in the 80s. In the 80s, Dublin became a very serious place, and then basically the amount of heroin that came into the country. So I'd physically seen Dublin go from, it was kind of alcohol orientated, I suppose, at that time. Our culture is very much, not so much today, people are more aware of it, but back then culture was like...
Around the point.
Yeah, it was around the point.
Social day.
Yeah, like, social norm.
Most dads would have went down there to pub after hours and stuff like that, after work. Absolutely. And had a pint and socialised with their mates, and it would have been very much... I think the wife in the house, going home.
We celebrated.
Yeah.
We yeah, we celebrated and we mourned everything, or wherever it was, babies' christenings, the funerals, the weddings, the whole ball of wax, it all happened in the bar. It was the norms. And so, like, when I think about when I was growing up, and it wasn't because my father was an alcoholic, he wasn't, he was a hard-working man, but he used to bring my sister down to the pub, and we'd sit there and feed the dog Chris, sitting on the bench, you know, having a glass of orange.
Yeah.
Do you want a glass of minerals?
Minerals. Yeah.
Minerals.
Yeah. Packet of potato.
Yeah, a packet of potato.
Like, I hear the same
King
before.
Crips.
I hear the same
Crips
before. They were
lovely,
like, since when was a packet of potato not enough to sustain a growing child in Dublin?
yeah.
And that was it. It's like,
yeah, there was eating and drinking on them.
absolutely.
And the thing, I always remember Dublin that way, and then I remember Dublin in the 80s. And then, you know, I can honestly say I'm probably a handful of people that I grew up with that are still alive. So I feel
Because
blessed.
of the heroin epidemic?
Yeah, I feel blessed in so many ways. That
The
I'm still
heroin
here
did really
today.
sweep Dublin in a crazy way, didn't
But
it?
it-
No, we
It went out in ripples.
Yeah.
In the sense that everybody knew somebody that had been affected in some shape, form or fashion, either through a family member directly or maybe a cousin or something, or, you know, like, or else a friend. And it was just so sad. And literally they hadn't found the cure at that time either for AIDS. And so people were literally dying on the street. You could see them dying on the street. They were like skeletons walking around. That was in our city, Dublin, in the 80s. Now, it's only because I lived I lived at the bottom of Crumlin. So I spent the guts of about 10 years in Fateman Mansions, bottom of Rialto, and then I lived there for a short period of time. So,
You can imagine that being a tough part of Dublin at
yeah,
that
it
time.
was, yeah, it was.
Yeah. Like, if you got to dig in the mouth, you wouldn't be getting a solicitor.
No, you have to yeah, for sure. But that's the other side of it as well, because I always remember saying to my father when I was 15 years of age, I can't wait, Dad, till I don't have to fight anymore. Because it was all territorial.
Absolutely, yeah.
It was so territorial. If
Yeah.
somebody said something and it was like somebody deemed it was out of school, you had to
defend your
patch.
She said that
What
about
you
you.
saying?
Yeah.
And as an adult, I still kind of have some of that red flag listening. I have to say, it's been one of those things that's been like a bad smell. That's kind of a character defect that I've carried forward as I've got older. You know, obviously you're a little bit wiser and self-aware, so you do it less. But you know, I can see the essence of it, where it came from. And,
Absolutely.
you know, like, it was one of those
Do you
things.
feel that? Because I do feel this, that like, because I won't say that type of environment, but definitely kind of an environment like you're describing there, like that you had to check things because things got bigger, didn't they?
Yeah.
If you let someone away with
Very
something,
fast.
So yeah, there was a big chance that it was
Very
going to
fast.
grow and get
Yeah.
worse as a thing. Do you feel that? Look, I feel as an adult that I have like this, it's like a seventh sense of you, something, you know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's an instinct and you can feel it. And you know what? I find it radiates me to people that are, say, like me, like yourself, like Andy Ryan as well, like people that we would find that would be like, they would have that in them. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's a part of what I'm talking about. And another reason why we really relate and we click as well, Paddy, is because I think it was good prep for us as we actually went into the fighting world. It was no fluke that boxing gyms, I mean, boxing gyms were, I'm going to use it as a reference because it's around 150 years. It's a longer history than MMA. MMA is a baby in comparison. But boxing clubs had always been in underclass and working class areas. There was always a reason for that. Very rarely you'd ever see a boxing club in a middle class area, if any. And it was always a working class kind of a sport, the discipline and stuff like that. People, you went in and got involved. But when you went to the environment of boxing, I remember my father knowing how bad Dublin was becoming in the 80s, literally grabbed me by the back of the shirt. And I always remember I had a white plastic Dunn Stores bag he put me gear into and grabbed me and said, "You're going up the boxing club." "I don't want to go, I want to play football." He said, "I burdened your boots, you're going up to the boxing club and that's the end of it." And he dragged me up with his scruff of the neck and threw me in the door. And all I remember is I had a towel with a change of underpants and a fresh t-shirt. Not the tracksuit bottoms, they were coming back with me. Right, so I went in, this is I'm talking to the mic and looking at it. How do kids forget brand new clothes today? How do kids do that? In my day, if you came home without your jacket, you'd have been hanging from the lamppost for the night.
Yeah.
Honest to God. Anyway, right.
Too much, that's it.
Yeah, too much.
You know what I
Not
say?
worth.
Less is more, saying.
Not worth. But I go into the boxing club, I had the bag and I just fell in love with it. And then I wasn't a great boxer, but I was very disciplined. I trained twice a day and all the rest of it. And that's carried over into who I am today. I never, ever, ever stopped training. I'm always doing bits and pieces.
Did you fall in love with boxing at that time?
I did. You know what it was, Paddy? I'd. What's the best way of saying it? I'd played team sports. I'd been in Gaelic. I'd been in soccer. And I enjoyed them, but you had to depend on other people to get the ball around the park, or I'm not allowed to say park with GIA, the field, and put it in the goal, right? I hated that. I was the goalkeeper, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A very small goalkeeper, mind you, but at the time it was relevant. 15, I was about as tall as other kids, and then they surpassed me. But I always remember that. Yeah, it was just... When I went into boxing, then it's all about you, but you're still part of a team.
Yeah.
But if you have a bad performance, you can literally see it physically
On your face. Yeah.
And it happening when it's going down. You know what I mean? And so that's what I loved about
Say
it.
the environment in boxing gyms, right? And I've said this before and I got in trouble for it because it was just taken out of context. Boxing gyms are very different.
The most hated person in boxing.
Stop, man. It would have been guys like yourself. It would have been like, that's not what I meant. I meant the environment in a boxing club. It was a lot different in them days compared to what it is now.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that? It's dog eat dog.
Everything changes. Everything changes.
No, not in a bad way, because that would create some amazing champions in way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, boxing's a very complex sport. Like not as complex as MMA, where you have to carry off multiple different styles and stuff like that, disciplines. Boxing is very complex today. It's constantly changing, and if you use like athletic boxing or amateur boxing as a / amateur boxing as it was once called, high performance models now are massive. We've only really caught on to that over the last couple of decades. But the Russians have been doing it for nearly 5.
Yeah.
And they were the ones that brought it to Cuba in the 60s, so even longer than that.
Yeah.
Sorry, 6 decades. Even longer than that. They brought it to Cuba.
So 60 years of development, youth development.
They were doing that way back there. Yeah. And they were using like the likes of high-speed strength moves like Olympic lifts, like way back 40, 50 years ago. I've even got research off a fella called Philman off it. He calls himself a professor of boxing, about different styles of boxing. And they were the first to really test fighters, what made them powerful, what made fighters not so powerful. So you have people who are really fast on their feet, constantly moving, and they've less power, although Lomachenko rewrites the book on that.
Different twitches, is that?
Yeah, yeah, but they break it down and they reckon it's core strength that actually develops that power. And some people have it, and some people have more of it than others, and they have that being able to.
And is that to do with with short muscle bases and long muscle bases as well? Well, because I know from body types with MMA, like there's so many different styles and complexes because of body types. Well, in boxing you've got a guy that
tall, rangy, southpaws, orthodox, counter
and
punches and all that.
That Mike Tyson style, because that's a body type style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's in your face. You can't shake him off. He's like shit in your shoe.
But when you're looking across the corner, though, you kind of know what's going to go down style-wise in boxing, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Where in MMA, you just... Like, you've got a guy like Ruzumir Palhares or something like that. Say, somebody short and stocky. What the other guy's name be? I can't remember more recent. But guys that you know, like, he's going to be trying to do a leg lock being...
that's his thing, whatever, But I suppose you sort of start out really fast.
Yeah, first round.
Yeah, you were the most unorthodox fighter I've ever seen, but that's what made you special.
Thanks. Oh yeah,
that's what made you special.
No rhythm, and people used to say to me, "You're never going to be at the box because you've no rhythm." And it turned out in MMA and stuff like that, no rhythm is absolutely brilliant.
It's so hard to read.
Yeah, because you don't even know what you're doing. Like, the rhythm of it is just.
That's honest to God. I used to watch him and say, how does he do that? Like, some of the crazier stuff, you think you were just about gone and finished, and you're spinning around, coming out the other side of it, and you have the fighter's back down again.
Houdini.
What, did I blink?
Artist.
But he's just really, and then if I'm not saying he's exactly like, but somebody who reminds me of you somewhat is Paddy Pimblett.
No, definitely. But body types, if you look at it as well, it's kind of...
Paddy Pimblett's so unorthodox.
Even posture. It's so hard to fight them guys.
He's a funny guy though. Yeah, he's a nice guy.
He's a great guy. Yeah,
he's a nice guy.
He's funny as, and I think I don't think he gets enough credit for his personality in the idea of him. People think he's just a piss taker all the time, but he's actually really smart as well.
Yeah. Well, he comes across to me as a really nice fella.
He's great. Loads of the fighters on that team, Paul Rimmer's team.
Loads of times. I've met them. They're really nice.
You've probably dealt with most of the whole scene, then, Joe, haven't you?
I've been blessed to be around it for a period of time. Like, so, I yeah, I've been involved as a professional for nearly 15 years now. And I'm one of the few professionals in the world that actually make a living out of it. So
how did this come about? Like, so Joe, after you say you came through boxing, you
Yeah.
grew up that little bit more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What age did you start saying to yourself that, you know what, like I love that? You obviously, you fought as a kid in boxing, I'm sure.
Yeah. I wasn't a good boxer, like I said, and I'm not. That's not being humble. It's just being honest. It's just being very honest. And I remember I was in a weight category with David Kavanagh and Brian Geraghty, and both of them were Irish internationals, and they were really good. So that's my way out there. My trump card.
I'm never catching up.
But I fell in love with the training, and then I kind of got lost for a while, and I got disillusioned, because when you live in a situation where you're growing up in certain areas, underclass or working class areas sometimes, and there were less choices in Dublin at the time, sometimes it's hard to see shit from Shinola.
Yeah.
And then it was the amount of drugs that were around you, and, you know, like, all of it was just a little bit darker than it is today, like, in terms of choices. But we knew no different, and so you kind of, the bonds you formed with people then, like, my best friends are best friends.
Yeah.
Like, we've been through it and back, like, and I'm so grateful that they're still here today. They're
Same
great
as
people.
me.
So they're just fantastic people, you know. And so
Because coming through,
they're your bedrock.
there's
yeah.
an amount of problems coming in, coming up through areas like that as well. That, like, even if you make it out and you're just on the other side and you have, say, a normal job, like, that's usually successful, considering the stuff that
That's
you will.
highly successful.
Highly considering the stuff you like drug addiction,
Yeah.
like suicide, all of these things that
Yeah,
are
it's
like rampant
massive.
in these places. You
Yeah,
know what
it's
I mean? So
massive.
when you do make it, that's success, and then after that is
Is a bonus.
Is a bonus.
But you know what the funny thing is? Like, even at the age of 15 years of age, 16 years of age, I remember growing up, and for some reason or other, I always knew I'd end up speaking or talking or doing stuff like that, or teaching or being involved. I know it probably seems separate from Cutman, but as you know, it's...
No, so you teach courses.
Yeah, I teach courses in Cutman, but I always kind of knew. I don't know why. It seems probably kind of funny, but I just always kind of knew I was made to stand in front of people or to be a leader. Well, even when I was a goalkeeper and under 5 years of age, or sorry, under 6 years of age, under 7, 8, I was always the captain. So I knew I'm just built to lead. And if you've been out, and when I was working with IMMAF, you know, I can control a room of 300, and then the last World Championships, 600 athletes. I can process them. I can control rooms. I can control chaos. When I can get a grip on chaos. I can't control it, but I can get a grip on it, and
direct the chaos.
Yeah, and make it into a system. People don't really see that end of the job. You know, like, it's just one asset to the thing. But that all stemmed again from being probably growing up in a place where you had to be allowed to get noticed.
Yeah.
If you were an introvert, forget about it. And you were saying it escalated fast. Like, when you think there was no social media feeds for bullying, you're talking about a group of kids waiting for you at the school gates, and you looking for an alternative exit to go, because you know you're going to get a gangsters if you make it to the other side. And then you can't say nothing. You go home and your parents are there, you have a few bumps and scratches, and if you came in the door and your dad said, "Do you hear him back? Do you hear him back?"
And the pressure of that,
Yeah.
all that stuff alone, like,
Get out there and hit. Don't let him hit you. Get out and hit him away. Not that my dad was bad, but it was again culturally norm.
yeah, but no, what,
It was a cultural norm. And it was survival.
Survival, yeah. But you have to
Yeah.
teach that, because let me tell you one thing, because the minute you don't have that, and like, even people as adults now, they smell that in you as an adult. Like, if you're smelling that you're a pushover, an adult in the workplace these days,
Yeah.
it's going to be the same thing. It escalates, and you have to. No, you don't have to stand your ground and hit someone, but if you don't mark the talk and the line and say, if you cross that line,
Yeah, it's too far.
there's going to be a problem. You know what I mean?
But-
and you get more respect, I think.
The communication skills we have today have definitely been, like, the cornerstone of them have basically stemmed from those years. Well, for me personally, a very polished version of it today. But like you said, you touched on it as well. You have a sixth sense. I trust that
Yeah, I do.
a lot. When people come into my circumference, if I'm with them for a period of time, I'll I suss them out, and hopefully they're good. You know, if I feel like I'm going to get into a situation with them where I'm just wasting my time, I have the maturity now to say, look, enough's enough. You know,
Yeah.
let's go different roads here, and all
Without
that.
being like kind of or not.
Yeah.
Oh, what-
Slamming doors behind
Yeah,
you.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
no, because you need that. And you know, I think people appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think people appreciate that. So
Sometimes.
so as you said, I think people being around, I say this to fighters as well, that here, Joe, that like, not everyone has to fight, and people think the minute people start fighting, they're kind of like, oh shit, now it's me soon. You know what I mean? People don't have to fight. There's very few people I think that are fighters.
True.
Are true to be, and not people have a few miles in them, but I think fighters have 100 miles in them. Do you get what I mean? Like where they get comfortable and they've been able to stay there for a long time and deal with the pressures and the kind of anxieties and fears that come with that. Now, some people I think try a few fights and then they realise, you know, this is exhausting. I can't do this. I think that's normal too. And then there's some people that just fighting is just not for them, and they want to be around stuff. But you want to be around the train, and they love sparring because there's guys that came up in all of the teams that like would have as many
supported you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would have as many.
I never made it into the limelight. I didn't want it.
Absolutely. Yeah. In that way, like, and fall in love with the training, and I think there's some of my best friends in it as well. Like best friends of the people that like you know that they just didn't want to go all the way into the limelight and fighting and stuff like that. This wasn't for them, and they still around it. Is that what kind of kept you close to getting into the Cutman business? I know you're good friends. I know you're friends with Andy, but I know that now it's the affiliation with teams and stuff like that. Not that it doesn't go for you, but it's not. You need to be on the line. You was explaining about where did that come from?
The whole Cutman thing was really
because boxing is different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very, very different because you work for the team or you work for the fighter. You don't work for the promotion, as in MMA.
So how would have that worked back in the day? Would a fighter have hired, as a fight was coming up, negotiate the contract, hire the coach,
if I told you that basically back then you were allowed anything between, up to today you're allowed up to nearly 10% of $100,000 cap on a world title fight. Now, don't put that in writing. That's... it could be anything between 5% and 10% of $100,000 cap, or else it could be an agreed sum beforehand. So basically, Cutmen have had a pay scale, and so basically the worth of that pay scale depends on the type of the fight. So boxing pays well at top level, but
it really does.
Yeah, but pays well at top level.
Because you can fight a high level world title fight and make a few million.
Yeah, you can make a lot of money, particularly, that depends on weight categories. Heavyweights get paid more than lighter weights. That's a fact. As if lightweights bring less to the table than heavyweights. But it all comes down to business, and business dictates statistically that heavyweights put more bums on chairs than lightweights.
And that's some of the and you know what the mad thing is, some of the best fights in history have been in them middleweights and lighter weights categories. You know what I mean?
Well, you're probably thinking Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran, Thomas Hearns.
Would it have been the kind of the Ali kind of top tier that kept it into the heavyweights or made them numbers? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, we were blessed. I was blessed that I lived in the golden era through the 70s and 80s when like boxing was really the cream. It was gold. When you had the Sugar Ray Leonards and the Marvin Haglers and stuff like that.
Beautiful boxing.
Yeah, and they were pay-per-view before pay-per-view. They were people that attracted a crowd because you knew Marvin Hagler was always my favourite. You can just touching on again what you said earlier. If I was to say what makes some people fighters, some people who like to fight, and some people, there's the athlete, and at least I turned up. And you can lose professionally, right? You can lose professionally. You know that as well as I do. You just kind of sit in there and you can just do enough. And you don't want to step it up, or you can step it up, but you'll just kind of hang on in there and you won't give 100% kind of thing. I've seen professionals do that.
Would that be discussed before a fight?
Well, it just depends. Like, journeymen turn up to lose. Like, boxing's very unique in that sense that people actually turn up to lose, and they do it to pamp your record. So,
but I've heard some people going and doing 10 fights in a week in somewhere
gone over and just to pamper a record.
Well, then they've got 10 fights.
I don't know.
So probably all bleeding bullshit, but you know yourself.
Well, look at Lomachenko at only 7, and then the likes of
they beat 400. Was it 400 amateur?
Rigondeaux, Guillermo Rigondeaux. He'd only a handful of professional fights. He'd only 7 before he won a world title. Correct me, I'm sure I'm saying this wrong, but the two of them between them, I think between 5 and 7 fights, I think they had, and they won world titles at professional level because they were so good as amateurs. Yeah,
but would I be right in saying that the amateur game, even for MMA, I think now is the new professional, or how the professionals come on.
Yeah,
which is right, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, if you're the top amateur, you should be getting paid, signed like a footballer nearly.
Yeah.
So if you're coming up as a youth,
Should be looked after, yeah.
absolutely, rather than it just being right, forget everything else that you ever did as an amateur. Like that, to me, you're building your worth as an amateur.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
You're building your skill, you're building
Of
your
course,
craft, and then you're after it.
What's the rush?
Yeah, there's no rush.
Yeah, what's the rush? And the beautiful thing about MMA, a loss is not as bad on your record as it is in boxing, because Mayweather really, he would have put his stamp on boxing in the sense that basically that squeaky clean record was the ultimate, most important thing of your career. You know what? People want to see interesting fights. You know, I people say to me, such and such fight in the weekend. I say, okay, right, fair enough. And I know he's only started his career, so look, I won't take you serious until you got 10 fights under your belt and you're actually out there boxing somebody. Yeah. It's just, it's a sad indictment of boxing, and it's one of the reasons that boxing is dying. Like, you have career professionals and they just kind of, they go at their career. They've too much, you know. It's the true champions. There's over 120 champions today. Which one are you? Well, you know, it's just really confusing. And then going back into the 70s and 80s when I grew up, you were saying what defined boxing really, or what was it? It was just how good they were. They were awesome. They were true champions. They lived and they took pride in being a champion. They carried that responsibility and brought it back to the people. Muhammad Ali was just a slick mofo. Yeah. Slick. And it just rolled off his tongue. He had a great sense of humour. He was a good looking man. He delivered it. He was brilliant.
Charisma.
Yeah, and same with Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard, very, very well spoken guy. Can, you know, like when you hear the likes of that, like people don't expect a lot sometimes from boxers, right?
No, yeah.
And then
Roy Jones Jr. then has
Roy Jones Jr. and various other and stuff like that. You know, when George Foreman, well, with the exception to the rule is George Foreman. When George Foreman does commentary, go out and have a cup of coffee. He's as mad as the brush. He comes up with some crazy things. He was, I remember when Joe Galmaggi boxed Arturo Gatti, and Arturo Gatti was the most savage knockdown in boxing. Knocked him out. First punch knocked him out. Second hooks. Third one. Boom. Hit the canvas. Head bounced off it. Yeah. And George Foreman, they were talking about, you know, he's in a bad way. Let's hope Joey gets up off the canvas and, you know, like stuff like that. And the doctors, the medical team is going around. And George Foreman goes, yeah, that canvas, he said, it's really heavy on the feet. So springy, he says, you know, it's made so when your head hits off it, you don't get hurt. And I was going, no, I don't think that's the reason.
No,
I don't really think that's the reason they put the canvas down. Yeah. But that's just one example of George. He just goes off in his own little world. And he just invents it.
All the boys just looking at him.
Yeah.
Don't say anything.
Yeah, and we were saying Joe was going to get better right now. Yeah. But
so the split between MMA then. So you said well, not you said, but how it worked is that the UFC changed this. We weren't saying that MMA changed this. So 1993 is when this kind of...
Well, 2000, I came into the sport, and I'll tell you how I came into it. Well, 2003 was when MMA really changed the role of cutman, because basically what the UFC did was they took the role of cutman out of corners, and the promotion hired the cutman rather than the team or the boxer. So it was no longer the team or the boxer, it was now the promotion. And so cutmen now work for the promotion. So they work red corner, blue corner. Whereas before you worked with a specific...
It was you against them.
Fighter. Yeah, and you had an opponent. You were part of the coaching. You were sitting in, you were in pro boxing you can have, depending on state, and it depends on where you are in the world, but 3 to 4 in the corner. That's a crowded corner. Yeah. And the cutman's usually the last man. And you're only brought in specifically if there's something there. But sometimes you see coaches and they do cuts as well, but that's really hard to do.
Who's the best boxing cut man you've ever known in history? Who's your guy that you would say, Jesus?
Right, if I go right back through history, I could go back to there was a fella called Doc Bradley. I don't know whether I read his book, part of it. They call him Doc Bradley because he read medical books, and he was one of those guys that if you think of some of the substances that they would have used back then, I mean, it was typical of cutmen to have the likes of 7 different jars or bottles with them, and that could range from cocaine to some form of amphetamine to heroin to you name it, right? The first form of regulation, I think, came in 1914 when they prescribed heroin.
In the middle of the fights?
Ah, yeah, 100%. If you were in pain, like, you know, you got an opiate, and if you were kind of slipping down there, a stimulant and stuff. But they use more herbs, like tincture myrrh and stuff like that. They use more herbs. Sometimes vinegar was used for nosebleeds. Other stuff they used to do was chewing tobacco, stuff like that. They take the chewing tobacco out, not very hygienic. $1 out of a bucket. and put the tobacco into the open wound and put the silver dollar over the top of it, you know, to coagulate the bleed and stuff. Not the healthiest option you'll ever have.
Absolutely not.
But that was some of the stuff they did, and it was 1914 really changed it because they started to prescribe. They prescribed the substance, which meant it was a form of regulation, you know what I mean? But boxing, I've forgotten the question. See, you have to forgive me. I'm in my 50s. I go off in tangents.
We're the worst.
Paddy,
You must be bleeding 70 then.
Just pull me back in if I go off.
People text me all the time. You asked them a question and then you just went on about this, and it's like, sometimes that just happens. It's a conversation.
But I have to admit, I'm not like Billy Connolly. I don't come back to the first thing I started off with.
I don't know how he does that. He has some memory for that. Anyway. But the best cut man
that's Doc Bradley. Right. Now, he was one. And the reason why I think of him is because what he did was he tried to put evidence-based stuff behind. And that was it's not 1847. It was later than that. It was toward the end of the 19th century and the earlier part of the 20th century. And he started to try to put evidence-based behind it because he started to look at surgical stuff and he thought, well, let's, put some education behind this, like types of bleeds, stuff like that. So he was one of the godfathers of it. Then you have Ray Alser, Whitey Bimstein, and they would have looked after the likes of Rocky Marciano and, even going back, when you look at those dudes or guys and the fighters they looked after, over 100 world champions and stuff like that. Tough men, limitless rounds, just fought until you dropped kind of thing. And I love those guys because they were a team of two. Now that's very unusual to have two cut men in boxing and both of them walk a corner.
Opposite sides?
No, same corner.
Okay.
Same corner. Yeah, same corner at sometimes, same corner. Well, for some fights, I believe they were together in camp for some. And so I looked at that and that's so unusual and that clicks in my head. And then you come on and then there was the likes of Chuck Baddock. Forgive me if I'm assassinating his name. I do that with a lot of English. I mortar the English language every day. Chuck Baddock. And he used to take photographs or get prints of the fighters and then make a crown and stick it over the top of his head. Because people forget that the sport we're involved in, Paddy, and the reason you get paid is because we entertain. And so we're part of the furniture. That's what we do. We entertain. And it doesn't matter if you're an official, you're a professional, but you're there to help with the whole entertainment process. We're there to put the platform up so you do your business and all the rest of it. So they stick out in my mind. And then when you come into the earlier days, then you'd have to go back to, I'm just trying to, Ernie Fossey was in the UK. He would have been in the 60s. And then obviously people know Garcia, another one, Hutzila Mate, obviously Jacob Duran, is steady as a rock. As a cutman, when you watch Jacob work, his systems are so good. He's on it like a car bonnet. He never changes his systems. Like the key to it is the fundamentals of first aid. It's not rocket science. So he gets in there, he's on it within 5 seconds. He's on it. He's cleaned it, he's on it, and then he's basically applying a treatment and he holds it compression. And he knows his gig. And he knows, Forrest Griffin really he made a name for himself with Forrest Griffin versus Shogun Ryu. That time Forrest Griffin got a really nasty laceration on the forehead. But he used a thing called microfibrillar collagen, which is like toothpaste. I'd recognise it. But that was a wise choice because that was a gaping wound. Microfibrillar collagen is like putty, but it's an active ingredient to help coagulation now. When you see his choice, because you got to remember sometimes cutmen have an arsenal in front of them, although they're not supposed to be using the stuff that's in front of them. Yeah. But all I'm saying is that he made wise choices. And I look at his systems and I look how effective he is and efficient, and he's on the money every time. That's a professional. And so I really like him. And then
he was part of the show in the way of where even he's around,
I worked with Jacob in London. I was to shadow him when I started. He was my
class.
I shadowed Jacob. That was in London, and then after that, then not so long after, the Reebok thing happened, and so
I know, and which was another shame of a thing. What was
I worked with Burt Watson as well. Do you remember Bort?
Yeah, of course.
What a legend.
What a man.
Yeah,
Both of
what
you
a
stand
legend.
outside the room, right? And this is what it'd be like. You'd be in the room and you would have heard this on telly. This is how it is, like. And then all of a sudden you're hearing this, we rolling.
Yeah.
Like, and you're like, am I in a film? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're in the dressing room and all of a sudden this man that like the noise is like, it's like listening to
Joe Lewis's manager.
dusting outside the room or something like that.
Boxing
Joe
legend,
Lewis.
a Hall of Famer.
Because I've had conversations with him as well, which is, and you're asking questions. He's a man I'd really, really love to have a chat with as well. Because he goes back to the day of boxing, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what he was. Yeah, Joe Lewis's manager, yeah?
Yeah, he was Joe Lewis's manager. And so...
70s, would that have been? 72?
Yeah, Joe Lewis, because I always had a question, did he, Joe Lewis end up penniless at the end of his career? And he said, no, man, not at all. He said, we converted like 300 or whatever square feet of the upper part of a gym into a luxury apartment for Joe. He said, no, man, he was in a good place. He never wanted to leave Philly. He lived in the same hood, never left it, in his gym until the day he died. And that was Joe Fraser. He was a people's man. Never budged. Stayed in the same place. He could have got out. He was like, he made enough money from boxing.
It's like me.
Yeah. They'll bury it in
I'm
talent.
not going anywhere. Anyway, in Jobstown as well, bro.
Jobber, sorry.
In Jobber as well.
Said talent.
What's the worst one, right? So when you're standing outside the cage and bang, you see that shot happening.
Yeah.
Someone spread out. What's been your worst situation? The worst cut you've ever had to deal with?
Right. Most of them are fight stoppages. Because when they're really bad, it's over. I remember a knee. I won't give names. I'm a little bit finicky about throwing people's. Oh, you can do.
People love that. People
no,
love
I'm
that.
saying I won't give names. It's because I can't remember the names.
People love that. Be like, that was my head, Joe.
I remember a guy taking a knee to the face and it basically bounced from his cheekbone up to his forehead, and he had like a 7 centimetre gaping laceration on the bottom and on the top, and you could see his skull, and he was just bleeding. And I had some kit on me. Now I used a form of alginate, which is like seaweed and absorbent, and I took a 1-foot-long roll out of me kit when I seen it, because the doctor had been called in, and usually I come in with the doctor, and I just packed it out, and the whole thing was basically just. Yeah, I used the whole thing, 1-foot-long, 30 centimetres of alginate just to pack it. It was that big and gaping, so they had to take him out. I don't know how many stitches. He had to get stitches inside and out, sutures inside and out. That was some of the worst. And then I've been, Stefan Liams, he took a knee to the mouth, I think, and he had a new mouth. He had 2 mouths, and that basically separated. And so basically... yeah, I got lucky that night. I got in and I walked that one, and so that was a good night.
Was that free stoppage something?
No.
Could have ended up in that worse as well. Could have had a split.
Yeah.
Here's 2 cuts that I've been around that I've been like, oh my God. I don't know if you know, it was a Thai boxing show. His name is Tree Kicker. He trains out in Thai.
That doesn't sound good for somebody receiving that.
Absolutely, yeah. But he got, I don't know if you were working on it, but he got a cut on his forehead here, and I'm not missing, it was this size open. And he's probably one of the bravest person I've seen there, because he leaned over the cage and he said, all right, Paddy. And he had like a vagina on his head. Like, he was literally bleeding. Yeah. And then another cut, I'm trying to remember the bleeding other one there now. I can't remember the second one there. Yeah. I know you'd be dealing with a lot of the like when I see them, and then if you see Joe there, you're kind of like happy Larry. What's a fighter that you've went in like that? I'm saying that is cut really, really bad, and you and him are trying to get the fight to continue.
Right.
There's a
couple of things in what you said, right? The first thing, I'll mention one fighter because I remember him now. Scott Askins. And that was in Dublin. I think it might have been the main card for that. It was either you or Connor, but it was the main card. We were talking about the highs and lows, and I've been around for both of them in your career. I've caught you in the lifts and various other meath, done all that, or else went, way, and then,
but it's great.
We've had both of them.
Listen, it's great to see, and it's because it's only down the road that you realise you remember, like them people, you're bonding with them at them moments because they're there for you, you know what I mean? You see their empathy.
No, but the thing is, like, I understand. I understand what the conveyor belt is. it's a business, and it's a very, very tough business.
Yeah.
I understand the conveyor belt. People forget it's a business. And it's a sport. It changes. The parameters have changed. It's a business. You're a commodity.
Do you not think it should be declared a business, like, in a way?
It is.
I mean, like, declared as in, like, because obviously when you go close and you get deep with people like that, you're going places with people that your emotions are going to connect.
Yeah, well, again, we talked too much before we came in here. Yeah, I try not to. If I'm working for somebody, like, I'll give you an instance, and then we come back to Scott Haskins. I'm going to keep on saying him in my head so I can remember.
So I remember that.
The Olympics, Albert Salimov. I'd worked with Albert Salimov. I'd lived with him in Dagestan. Sorry, not Dagestan, Azerbaijan. I had an Azerbaijani passport. I was a citizen of. I went over there to. It was a quiet period for me, and it was a good period for me. I rented me house, and I thought I want to see the Russian technical system of boxing. And I'd been working with the Irish team. I was, at that time, Billy Walsh was there. And I had a fantastic relationship with Billy Walsh. And what a fantastic guy he's been for me and support me over the years as well in the background of athletic boxing. But I'd worked with Billy and the team, and he recommended me to Azerbaijan as a cutman. And at the time, the World Series of Boxing was going down.
Okay.
Right? So I lived with Albert Salimov in camp for 6 months. 6 months with all the guys from Dagestan. Some of them actually, Samir Magomedov works as Khabib's striking thing. They're all Russian champions. So I'm surrounded by Olympians, world champions, world champion minimum, and Russian champions minimum. So I'm surrounded by so much talent, and I'm seeing the Russian technical system of boxing happening right there and then in front of me. The legendary system that they've used for decades. And its repetitious nature and stuff like that. And Albert was one of those fighters, and he lived straight across the corridor from me. So we lived together in each other's pockets, in camp, training twice a day, eating, sleeping. Although I spoke very, very choo-choo po-ruski, okay? Like, it's amazing how much fun you can have by just explaining things with your hands. And we literally have ended up falling off tables laughing so much. Just from explaining things like this and, you know, like that and all the rest of it. But anyway, getting back to Albert. And I had that connection to him.
In itself.
So, world champions in Stoa Qatar wasn't the Olympics. And Albert comes out. I should have changed. I should have sat back. I should have said to the guy behind me, do that, come on, because we work in rotation. Usually you can't sit in your own country. You can't sit if your own country comes out. You have to take a step back and let somebody else in, because it's a conflict of interest, obviously. Well, for some. I'd have no bias, really. I'm professional enough to separate myself, but it's the way it should be. So I should have turned my head to the cutman that was sitting on the stool and said to him, take my place, would you? Because I actually felt a little bit nervous when Albert walked out, because this was for the gold medal.
Yeah. So the emotions got control.
It kind of got the better of me, and then I made. He was already carrying an injury into the fight, and he got caught, and then I made a complete balls of it. I done everything wrong, and I knew when I was doing it wrong. I was just I tried new stuff rather than just sticking to the stuff that I've always done that does work. Stick to your system, don't change. Any company listening in, you know, experiment in your off time, not when it matters. You know, you should have it down to a T. There's some things you ad lib.
Not for gold medals.
Yeah, but not for gold medals. And I sat there. The fight was stopped. It went to the end of the second round, and then basically back then, it has to go to the end of the second round for it to go to a decision.
Okay.
But it was in the second round. Fight was stopped. Cuba won the fight. Some say Albert was ahead in points. Some say Albert wasn't. It didn't really. I wasn't watching the fight.
You watching the cut.
I was watching the cut. I had to sit there. Then the worst part of it was there was an interlude, right, a break for 20 minutes, and they shut down the lights in the stadium, and I just sat there. I was just empty. It just hurt me. I can't explain it. I just let him down, and I carry that with me today.
That's very brave to even say, though, because not many people stand there, and not many people stand there at their stand by their mistakes. Do you get what I mean in that way?
No, it hurts.
Take responsibility for them.
No, it hurts, because it's like it's when you earn your crust, you know. And he meant something to me, and I felt I let him down.
That's deep. That's deep, Joe.
So deep, you'd have to get a snorkel to get to the bottom of the body. So in terms of my professional, I take it very personally, Paddy, if I mess up.
I know you do.
I take it very personal, and I'll go back and, like we have groups where we do feedback and analysis, so we can run kind of high performance with the other cup people and stuff. And I set the platforms up and they get in on it and stuff. I wish they did it themselves sometimes, but they need a kick in the arse, and so that's my thing. I'm a hammer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just the nature of me. I'm a hammer.
I'm the same. And when you want to do it, you want a job done right, do it yourself.
Do it yourself. But the thing is, I set it up and I put me work up there. And even Stefan Leams, if I go back to that fight, or Scott Haskin, then even after, I remember that I came back to Scott Haskins. Like, he'd a laceration on the top of the forehead, he'd one over the eye, he had one, I think it was something, he had 3 or something. And what people don't understand about cutmen, experienced cutmen, not the black artists or the people that, I'll get to it, I'll break it down rather than just be negative about it. I'll break it down so people can actually get some kind of example. But when you go in and there's multiple injuries, the first thing you have to assess, which one is priority? You have multiple. Where do I go? This happens in split seconds when you're walking across. When you wipe it down, once you get rid of the blood spatter, there can be much more there to it than you ever thought before from outside. And you got to remember, when you walk the big shows, like, I only see 30, I have only 30% visibility of that actual octagon, right? I'm at eye level with the floor. I have to look at the screens like 100 meters away to actually see what's going down. And then I'm listening for heavy contact or sound and stuff like that. If you hear boom, and you hear the crowd, right, somebody's being hit by who? Then you're looking for blood spatter. I can't see it on the map, but I can see it on the camera if it's up on body parts and stuff like that. It's looking down. And then from that moment onwards, I know I have to go. And so I'd have that organised with the gatekeeper before it happens. Now, if it's a situation that it happens in the last 10 seconds and I'm not sure, I don't care what show I walk and I'll stand on the bottom step and I'll say to the coach, 1, just let me look. Just let me look, and then I'll swing around and come back out, and then your other coach can go in then. But they've changed that whole system now where 2 can go in. And even if the cutman is not working, the cutman now goes in and helps the commissioner stand either side of the
That makes sense, I think.
Well, again, the role has changed. It's evolved. Now we're commissioning.
The confusion at that moment is crazy. And you know what the mad thing is? This is one thing that annoys me as a coach, right? Is if someone says there's a tiny bit of blood, but it doesn't need a cutman, do you get what I mean? In a way, but you need 2 and they're like, only 1. And you're kind of in a situation where it's like, not that because you're running in, I have my own system as well, you know, like you hand him the water, you hand me the ice sticker on his chest, he puts his hand on my shoulders, breathe. Don't say anything until I start talking. Because it can be very quick where someone's like,
sure.
Because it can kick off, you know what I mean? And if you don't have someone that's beside you, and some people want to use their own corner, man, you know what I mean? Like, so they have, like, my mate wants to do my corner with me thing, or my father, or my mother, or whatever, you know? And so coaches are in the same kind of situation. But I think this is a great rule that you're the same there.
Well, it even gets better when you're working with top class officials, right, that actually know the game.
Yeah.
And where we've set up systems because of experience of doing. Like MMA is different to boxing because it's so flexible and new and modern. And we're constantly changing all the time. We're constantly looking at stuff to improve it. Like, I'll give you an example of it in terms of cutman and referee relationship. If you look at the Stefan Leams fight, I'm working on Stefan. Like, even my hand position, because the coach has to give him water, so I changed my hand position so that I can leave the mouth open. So I had it either side because the laceration was under his lip. So I'm holding it like that so I can. So if I, again, explaining it to somebody who doesn't understand, one of the most important things is that the coach still has access to the fighter. And the second thing is that he can give him water. I'm not going to block that whole process off and get totally in his face and elbows and arms and stuff like that. That's a no-no. But I also need to control the fighter's head. So what I did was control his jaws. So if he moved, I was going with him. So I don't break contact with the treatment. Right? So when I get in, I turn around, the referee comes over, Mark Goddard, one of the best referees in the world at the moment, most consistent and best referees in the world, comes in and he goes, Joe, he said, what's happening? I said, doctor. It's out of my realm. I said, doctor. So instead of getting the doctor in right there and then where I would have had to break my contact and the treatment, the doctor comes in the last 10 seconds. When you have to leave, doctor comes in and then he assesses it. But now you've just had your full 50 seconds or 45 seconds to do it. Now that's people thinking and making the system better.
Rather than the doctor and you trying to make a decision in a minute.
How many times have you seen people running in the middle of the break in the round and they don't have any hemostats whatsoever? In other words, there's substances that stop bleeding. By the way, I use natural ones. I'll come around to that now in a second. And so what's the point? If you waited until the end, they're superficial wounds. They're not life-threatening. You know, like the doctor makes the assessment. He's the main man always. And but the thing is, like, call them in last 10 seconds to assist, and that's a program that works really well. And that's the UFC for you. They're just cream.
It's some machine. I remember like the first
cream,
times, like how the machine
absolute
works.
cream.
The 2 cuts that popped into my head, I remember that one as well.
See, it takes time.
I know. We're getting old, huh?
Yeah.
Artem Leboeuf. Were you there that night when Artem got the cut?
No, I seen it.
But you know the cut I'm on about, don't you?
Yeah.
He got a laceration on the top of his head against Artur Sawinski on Celtic Gladiator.
Yeah.
And he had to get a blood transfusion.
Yeah, right, that bad.
Absolutely.
That wasn't him that went to the bar after and it was an artery, was it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I heard that story. I heard he was bleeding to death in the bar and he was still...
Bleeding to death, like. And we were putting tissue on it and like taping the tissue.
But here's the thing, Paddy.
Absorbing through it.
That's another reason why it's so important. I know people are complaining about the medicals and what's required down here to actually run an event and stuff like that.
But I think complaining, but I think you're always just going to get complaining. I don't think the right people are complaining. I think the right people are.
I think the balance
on
needs
board
to be found.
Yeah, of course. The right people are on board.
But if you're bringing volunteers in to do an event like that, and they can't tell the difference between an arterial and a venal bleed, you know, like, and a kid's gone home sitting in the one's brighter, one's darker, and one's sports, and Paddy are on for.
You know what I mean?
So again, he's
bled from both.
Bled from both. But very rarely is it not both.
Yeah, that's a fact. So even when it mixes, it's a different colour.
No, because your face is full of them.
Right, yeah.
So when you get cut, sometimes if it's a long laceration, it could be small arteries as well that have been severed in it. You know, like could be.
So is that why that happened? Because someone didn't make the distinguish between an artery or a...
Well, pretty much, yeah. Because arteries don't really. They'll just keep doing their thing, like, and the reason for that is because of the pressure on the blood vessel wall. Because when your heart beats,
it pumps
blood, and there's pressure put in the wall,
pressure,
and that's the reason. No, I won't tell you the reason for it. You have to pay for that.
Yeah, you can get Joe one of his Cutman courses.
Yeah.
I mean, they're up. Even if you're just a coach, it's a thing to get to, because understanding that is amazing.
Listen to the ginger. There's ginger love here.
Yeah, I don't tell you now. Which gingers now? I know that the second
Scott Haskins.
Sorry,
I was going to say
we'll do this next.
Yeah,
and then what the supplements are that actually and why it stops the blood. Yeah. So. Philip Mulpeter.
The honey badger, yeah.
Battle Zone, do you remember?
That changed.
John Donnelly, 5 rounds.
That's right. Oh, right, okay.
You know the cut I'm on about?
Yeah.
It was under his eye.
That wasn't John Donnelly.
Oh, sorry, Richie Gordy.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because you were working that one, I'm right, am I?
Yeah, I was working that one. And you take a sense of pride in the fact that you're giving the kid, like, 2.5 minutes no bleed. Like, people see a fighter, they may bleed again during a round, but they don't understand that what you're looking for is a complete cessation after you've treated it. So he goes out and gets hit again on the sweet spot. It's going to bleed, right? It's traumatized again, so whatever. But the thing is, like, if, you know, the fighter goes back out there and it just starts to bleed again,
dealing with it, yeah.
That hurts.
But when you I never really bad nosebleed one time, but like fighters are slipping in the blood.
Yeah,
the blood is constricting your airwave. If you're in guard, the blood is rolling down the back of your neck.
And I've seen fighters do it on purpose into people's mouth and their eyes and stuff like that. You know, hanging over them while they're being
bleeding.
Yeah.
That's a good bleeding.
Yeah, a tactic.
Listen, when you're in a scrap and you're on there, it's not dirty when it's
But it's the same with the, like, we don't even get hepatitis C shots or nothing like that. It's just all wrong.
You don't?
No. Well, I do. But the thing is, like,
it's not regulated. You don't have to. You don't have
to. That's just the way it is with the whole Cutman profession.
All the blood you're going to be dealing with is all clean and checked in anyway.
Yeah, but some diseases have incubation periods like HIV and stuff like that. Yeah, I worked a competition where 10% of the I won't name who or where and stuff like that, but 10% of the participants were HIV positive. Right, and they boxed. And it was only a couple of days into the competition when evidence was kind of came back that, you know, someone falsified the documents and came through HIV positive.
So they knew they had HIV?
Well, they did.
So that's murder.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
murder, basically. So what with their opponents?
You know, the thing is, like, the thing that really upsets me, because boxing's so archaic with it, like, people not wearing gloves, handling gum shields even is full of bacteria and stuff. But just, you know, protect the fighter, protect yourself. Like, protect yourself, protect the fighter, whatever. But the thing is, like, it's just, it goes beyond belief sometimes. Like, people, I think people just take it for granted that everybody's, if you work in professional sport, you know it's not honest. If you work in amateur sport, it's not honest. I'm sorry. People try to make it honest.
Someone cutting the corner. Yeah.
But once there's some kind of, what's the best way of saying it?
Regulation?
No. For the whole Cutman thing, there needed to be a starting place. And the first, what I believed in 10 years ago when I started it, 2009, was that we needed to actually harm reduce. We needed to stop hurting the people we were supposed to be helping. So if you look, there's classic examples of it. You'll see it out there every time you see Cutman going to work, because people don't actually know what they're doing. They think, oh, the Cutman's, he's done a great job. He's done a great, yeah, he's no gloves on. The stuff he's using will probably pull the blood clot off when he takes it away. He's put so much, you know, grease on the kid's face. It's, you know, like, it's all over the kid. It's like, it's just, it's so wrong. The image of it's so wrong, and there's no system to it. It's just bish bang bosh. There's no education, and there's far too much ego, because cut men have become far more important. Cut women, cut men, cut persons, whatever you want to call yourself today, have become far more important than the people they represent. You need to take a step back. You're just part of the furniture. You're part of the team. You're an official. Just get on with it.
Is not your amigo. That's
no.
what I say.
yeah, that's what I said. Gotta rub that on you.
Because it is not, there's ego in everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Now, and
there is, and being a champion there's an ego.
And some people need, it's a skill sometimes.
To be a good professional, you need ego.
Even controlling that itself, you know what I mean, isn't it? They getting back to it, the last bit there.
Scott Askin.
Well,
he'd multiple, and so when I went in, it's just a quick look, and I assessed it. Now, there's a difference. If you have a laceration over an eye, in boxing, that's the most important, because it obscures vision, right? So the blood's running down that way. If you have an MMA fighter who lies on his back, that blood may now roll back off that way, who spends most of the round lying on his back. So if they had multiple injuries, one under and one over, an MMA fighter that spends his time on his back, that blood may roll back into his eye. Yeah. So you prioritise on what you're seeing. So it's not just make it up as you go along. Like, experience tells you.
As well.
You try to stop it. So regardless if they're standing, and it doesn't matter if they're standing or lying down, like, but you try to stop it either ways. But what I'm trying to say is, the priority of injury changes depending on location and things like that. And I ask 9 times out of 10 most students that come to the course, what's more important, a hematoma here that's closing the eye, or a laceration over the eye? And 90% of the time they'll say the laceration over the eye. I wasn't going to ask you the question, by the way. and I'll say, well, right, can you wipe the blood away? And then you can see again, right? And they say, yeah. But if the swelling,
absolutely,
you can't see.
And it's crazy what a bit of voice, like 30 seconds of voice. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like, the guy the weekend I did on Cage Warriors Academy.
Nice.
Boom, Lloyd came up straight away. He 2 rounds up. Yeah. Cutman comes over straight away. Cutman, Cut guy, I don't know who it was.
Cut girl.
I'm not too sure, to be honest. I just remember hearing. I didn't even see them.
Was it the weekend gone?
Yeah.
That was Deborah. Either Deborah O'Sullivan or Shannon O'Grady. Shannon O'Grady.
Oh, Shannon as well. Yeah, Shannon started training here. Shannon hurt her arm. Yeah. She loved being around the gym. And I rang Joe and said, Joe, I have this girl with a heart of gold.
He did say that.
And you know what you should do? I think you would really, really go on this girl. And now she's working for Joe. She's training as a cut woman. She's flying now, and she loves it. You know what I mean? So it is this sport, as I said. What did you say? The people that they do
family.
People that do fight and people that don't fight. What did you say? You had a great word for
athlete.
Yeah, at least I'm there, or athlete.
But I've seen some of the most talented kids, and I've worked on some. Been blessed to work some of the master in the golden years of Irish boxing. I was around for Willie Casey. I'll always use him as an example because I've never met anybody like him since.
Great boxer.
Big bang. Came from a family of 22 children and stuff like that. And he was amazing. Stayed in my house for 21 weeks.
Cliff, was it?
What an ambassador for the travelling community, I have to say. Such a funny guy. we had as much laughs as we had anything. And you know something, if people tell you that there's no, you know, I don't know where the differences are in life sometimes, where people, because of culture or because of, you know, your background, would make differences and stuff like that. But when you get to live with somebody in a camp, even Albert Salimov, who was a Muslim who prayed 5 times a day from Dagestan, how the whole different set of social ethic than I had, we can find some middle ground that we bond on. And the common place that we bond on is the sport that we love and know. Yeah. Right, that bridges us over in the middle, because we connect with the people then, because we know the sacrifices and the suffering that goes on, and we try to make their journey as the best experience of their life. So they'll be talking about it from, you know, same with the UFC. The beautiful thing about the UFC is that when you go to the UFC, the ethos for the officials to the athlete, 5-star. All the way.
No, it is,
all the way, 5-star. The athlete is the most important person, and that's what I love about it the most. The athlete deserves that accolade. Deserves if you've made it there.
Absolutely. The start of the show is the fighter in there. That's like, and see, it's same idea when I'm walking guys there. Like, that's the most important. There, I'm looking at them. I'm looking at the fight, but I'm looking at them. See how to make sure that they're not leaving their regrets in there as well. Do you get what I mean? The idea of remind them in the corner. Being the honest voice in the room, I think, is important. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Telling them, like, listen, you're going to regret this. And then 2 weeks later, you see them like, I should have did this. I should have did that. You know? Going off the fighting world as well. So there's another thing, Joe, you're an amazing year, as I told you already. But your relationship with your brother is something that I admire. Your relationship with your brother,
Kieran the Gonagals.
Kieran. Tell me about Kieran. So just so people know what's this situation.
Kieran has intellectual and physical disabilities, and so basically he has zero function by himself. So you have to support him in the sense that he can walk short distances. He can't really feed himself. He take a handful. His hand-eye coordination isn't great, and his like small movements with his fingers are not good and stuff like that. So. That's Kieran for you. But outside of that, he's an archie-fecker in the morning. He'd eat the fridge between 2 slices of bread and then come back for the electrical wires. And once he has his routine, he's happy. But the thing is, like, he lights up like a bulb when you run with him.
So tell them about this. This is amazing. This to me, this is like, how inspiring is it? Because some people that have every single thing going for them. Sit and moan, Joe.
I'll put it back to you, Paddy. Say if it was your son, would you do it for your son?
Absolutely.
You wouldn't even think twice about it.
No, absolutely.
Nothing special about that.
No, not that special. I just think that it's I think Kieran. I think Kieran is special.
Yeah, he is special. I had 2 choices when we grew up. I could totally disown him or I could defend him. And I lived not in a great neighbourhood, and so that meant I didn't have a big brother to pick up for me, because when he was coming along, I was thinking, great, to be 2 of us now. Yeah. Now, it's not horrible to think as a kid, you're thinking, we have 2 on the end instead of 1.
2 big, 2 Dobermen have better than 1 Doberman.
And so I'm thinking, I was thinking then, you know, like, I'm going to have to, when we obviously found out we got a very late diagnosis with Kieran, that he had intellectual disabilities, it wasn't going to get better. I realised I had to defend his patch. And defending his patch, well, that was, you know, like, let's just say we weren't as PC then as we are today. Yeah. And people would stop and stare sometimes and be totally just insensitive and not really cared and ignorant of... And you got to understand that even Ireland at a point in time in its history used to put Down syndrome children in institutes and various other and stuff like that. When you look at how functional Down syndrome children, you know,
in society,
in society, doing small jobs and working,
the energy that they
big smile and love and stuff.
They know all love.
Yeah, it's all love, and so it was a whole different place. But the thing was, when I ran with him, he used to light up. He just used to light up. So that's what we did. I had more energy back then.
Just to explain to people running with him. So would I be right in saying, was it a modified wheelchair you just got made?
No, see, what happened was, like, we were running in a wheelchair, but every time we ran, like, what basically happened was, if you hit even a small lip, say 5 centimetre or whatever, 2 inch, you hit it, I'm just thinking bandage and tape there, and you hit the side of a footpath, like, if you're in an ordinary chair, because it's so top heavy, it flips. And so the chair flipped over numerous times, and I knew I couldn't run with it. I just thought, right, because even a little piece of gravel and we were just flipping over. So I put it out there. And Nicky McManus, a constructor on film sets, or construction worker on film sets, said, let us do something with it. So it was like pimp my ride, right? So I give them two racing wheels, two proper racing bike wheels, right? Two proper racing bike, when I say like a T5 proper wheelchair jobby, you know, super light with marathon tours and stuff like that. They got a piece of scaffolding pipe, ran it down the middle, and then they put a bucket seat into it and then fixed it up so that it actually turned if I just... And then I had two brakes independent that I could just hit the wheels and it would just turn like so. And then when I went in to collect it, I was like, no way. I said, seriously, no way. So that was it. I had to go out to get the discs to put them on the wheels because I thought, this is just totally getting pimped. We're going to turn up at the marathon and this is going to be stunning. So we put stuff all over the wheels and stuff like that, you know, and obviously...
What did Kieran think?
Kieran didn't really care. Kieran, the only reason Kieran would care is if there was a fridge at the end of the wheel or something like that with food in it. That's the only reason. Like, but when he's out there, like, Kieran hates stopping. And even as a kid, there's two things he hates when you're walking, is breeze in his face. He thinks you can cut it off and he complains to you all the time.
Does he?
But yeah, he's like proper Chief Wiggum. And the other thing is then, like, if you stop. So I twigged it, you know. But the thing was, would he stay in the chair for 3-4 hours and things like that? So I started running with him for long as 10Ks. So we done a couple of park runs and I said, I'd love to do a marathon with him, you know. But back then in a certain race, and non-indicative of Dublin Marathon, I have to say, they told us that he was a safety hazard. And we couldn't run. Now, we're talking a long time ago. Right, because I was running with him since me 20, or what was the 20s? I think it was late 20s, or early 20s, whatever, I can't remember. And then a couple of years after that, or in that same race, it wasn't a couple of years, in that same race, I seen a father run past me with a child in the pram, and I said, hold on a minute, they just told me I can't run with me thing, and I said, fuck that. So I turned up for a half marathon, right? So I paid for it, but then what I did was I walked up and down, found a crack in the rail, because this was the same crew that told me I couldn't run. And then when the race started, we just ran in through the things and just took off with the crowd. We were in the middle of it. And I could see the old fecker over the car. Hey, man. We were, sure, what's he going to do in front of all the media?
Yeah.
Trying to get a kid with a chair with a thing that we paid for. We destroyed. So we took off and we ran around the race. And I was petrified that he would make it, because obviously he's in nappies and he has to be changed and stuff like that. And so I wanted to make sure he was 100%. So we put 2 nappies on him. We put extra padding on. We got 2 pairs of pants. Got him in all the race gear and stuff like that. But he just lost it. He couldn't just get over the fact there was people just flanking him. He was like that, you know, like, and it was just spectacular. And at the end of it, I tried to pose for a photograph and I lost the wheel, and we slammed 5 meters from the line. We slammed into the fence and a runner went over the top. It was spectacular. Honestly, spectacular. Went straight over the top of the chair. And you know, one of those ones where if it would have been just you that had done it, take it as but because there's a kid in the wheelchair and you've just upended the fella, he's... Yeah. Yeah. And then he's, you know, whatever. And then we crossed the line, and then the race guy comes running over to us and goes, yo, and I said, we paid for this. And then equally, I ran a marathon. Then we start running marathons. We entered the marathon, and Dublin Marathon were special to us. They always looked after us, I have to say. Put us right up the top where we should be so people can see us and run past us. But now we're in a different situation. We got 14,000 people running past us. Now, first the Ethiopians, they just take off. And the pace they run at's incredible. So me and Kieran, but the whole way around Dublin Marathon is electric. There's people just, you know, screaming and things and stuff like that. And at the time, we'd become a bit of a celebrity. So people running past, hey, Kieran, you know. So he of course, he gets all the credit for it, you know what I mean? you were just pushing your tongue hanging out your head with the chair behind it, you know, like so. But anyway, the long and the short of it, like we've done 5 marathons and stuff like that. And then we done 2, one in Berlin and one in Dublin within a month's gap, and that just knocked lumps out of me. But the thing is, like 14,000 people in Dublin flanking Kieran, right? But then you go to Berlin, 40,000 people running down the street. For somebody with autism, it's like sensory overload. It's like, whoa, what's going on? And Kieran be like, I always remember we were in Berlin and a guy dressed as a Duff beer bottle came running past us. Oh, Schnittelheiden, Schnicken, like a German lad. And Kieran grabbed him, right, gone past like this. I was looking, and Kieran has super strength. At 5 years of age, he could pull me father across the table. Or across the floor in his chair, sitting on his ass, just pull him like so. And he's super strong, but he wouldn't let go of the beer bottle. So it was funny for about 50 metres, but I'm trying to steady the chair and hold it straight. And the beer bottle's kind of running like this, and Kieran's just absolutely just cranking him up, bear hugging the life out of him, right? I was saying to Kieran, let him go. And I couldn't let go of the wheel because then I would have lost control of it, you know what I mean? Yeah. But anyway, your man broke loose. And took off, and then Kieran just wanted to the beer bottle wanted to get him again. I couldn't go near him. I had to keep on navigating around him.
The run job.
He probably done his fastest marathon ever.
Yeah, best time ever getting chased he was.
Smoked it because of that kid.
Absolutely.
But like that was one thing, and then another woman that ran past us had a hair like a Christmas tree. It was white, and he got infatuated with that, and he was just like, he just wanted it. He had to have it, you know what I mean? Oh, it was like, all of that goes on when you're doing it. Then you take your shoe off and throw it away. And so you run and grab a shoe, put it in the back of the chair, running. And then he throws something off, and then you're putting his hat back on because my mother said before we left home, make sure he has a hat over his bald patch in his head.
Like all Dublin man's.
Yeah, make sure he keeps his hat, he's cover his old chest there. Don't let him get a cold. I say, Ma, we're running down the street. I said, we're trying to clock, we're doing a mile in about 10 minutes and stuff like that. I said, what do you want me to do? I said, I'm pushing him and trying to direct him and stuff. And
I know many big brothers, Joe, but I have to say, I don't know many like you. You know what I mean?
Nah, you'd have fun with him.
No, fair play to you because...
You do it for your son.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would. And I totally understand where... I don't understand it from experience, but I understand where you come from love-wise, you know what I mean? Because I know that I would do anything for...
But you live in Tala, and wherever I live, or Jobstown, I should say. Like, I slept with Kieran until he was 11 years of age in the same bed. And when my uncle would come over, he jumped in the bed as well. Do you know what I mean? Roaring drunk, he'd be down the opposite end of the bed. Thousand tales, like. And that's just the way it was, like. And that's how close we were as brothers. Nothing changed the parameters of our relationship. It just meant automatically I knew when we couldn't help each other in terms of protecting ourselves in the neighbourhood, I had to protect him. That was my job. So that never switches off.
No, it doesn't. Joe, do you know what? It's an absolute pleasure for coming in.
Thanks,
Thank you so much. Yeah. That was what episode are you on? That was episode 94 of No Shame. Joe runs so many cut courses, as I said, for coaches and stuff like that. You really should check this guy out because if you go, you're gonna get the experience of what it's like to be dealing with fighters from a different eye, because we don't see this eye, but there's many eyes on that cage when we're in there.
No, those videos as well you showed me beforehand.
The videos, yeah. We'll post one up, won't we? We'll post one or two of the videos.
Africa. I sent you one of Africa. You've probably been there.
Africa. No, you've probably been there. I'm a busy man.
Yeah. Politician and stuff.
No, don't call me a politician. That's an insult. Look after yourself.